welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. Back to talk more His Dark Materials Season 2. We are on Episode 3. It's called Theft. Full spoilers if you have not seen this episode. I want to thank the hundred or so of you that have chosen to watch these. I really appreciate it. Going into last year out for this show, there was no way I wasn't going to review it. So the fact that you guys have many options to watch, thanks for checking this out. And if you are liking the channel and you are liking these reviews, please hit the like button. Don't forget to become a subscriber to the channel, as we will be covering this show through the duration of its series. And with over 1,500 videos, you're probably going to find something on here you might like. So anyway, let's get into tonight's episode because it just ended. This has a lot of pretty good elements to it. It's mostly a character episode. We're slowly moving the plot along here with some big character stuff. Again, not having read the books, I have no idea what's coming. One of the things that about this story though is I don't know where it's going. And I don't know if that was like that when you guys read the books. Because all I have to really go on is Lyra is super important, as one character usually is in these kind of stories. The one to bring balance, very Anakin Skywalker, right? To bring balance to the world, but I don't know what that means. The characters don't know what that means. What is supposed to happen? I think they're all kind of wondering the same thing. Some people want it to happen. Some people don't want it to happen. And some people, you don't know where their loyalties really lie, especially with Mrs. Coulter. She is so freaking hard to figure out. And I think it's because she doesn't really know where she's going to land. Because as menacing as she is, she's got all these things that happen to her, and there's these great moments that we have with her, between her and Lee Scorsby in this episode. So that's basically how it comes up. Like, we have Lee's part of the story that ends up crossing with Mrs. Coulter. We've got Will and Lyra and Boreal's stuff. And then we got a bit with Mary Malone trying to communicate with the dust in her own way. And I think that's some really interesting stuff. Now, this episode doesn't blow me away, but what it does do really right, is character in this. And I like this because there's a lot to be said about all these characters, like Lyra, right? I mean, she, in her world and the adventure she was on, and she was she's so confident and so sure in herself by the end of the first season, as rough as things get. She gains, a certain amount of confidence, even though she is carrying like this massive amount of guilt for, Roger's death. But she's also a kid, and she's also very naive. And in this world that's supposed to be our world, I'm assuming, still, she makes mistakes. She doesn't understand things and how they work as well. Then on top of, like I said, just kind of being a kid. So in this episode, she makes some mistakes, and they come back and they bite her. And we might as well start with that part of the story, other than the witches at the beginning talking about seeing the devastation of their land. And I think it was my subscriber Deborah who pointed out that the trees are what the witches derive their powers from, and that's why this is so devastating. And that makes sense. So I want to thank her for pointing that out. I think that was her. And they've got this making the magisterium pay over, versus finding Lyra being more important now than ever. But the elithiometer told her to follow Will, to be close to Will. And she ignores it. She flat out ignores it, thinking that it's fine. He's wanted in Oxford. We're doing him a favor. This overconfidence comes out. Pan saying the whole way, like, I don't think this is a really good idea. And I felt it too. I was like, I mean, I didn't have to read the synopsis of the episode to know that this isn't going to lead to no good. The episode's called Theft. And what does she have in her possession that would be stolen, that would be devastating? And that's the elithiometer. So she goes over there looking for answers and, thinking that nobody's looking for her. But as we know, there are people already looking for her. They've been looking for her as soon as they crossed into our area. Boreal and his guys were watching the window. And so when she goes to see Mary, there's already this guy who's supposed to be a detective, right? A DI. And he's just standing there. And good Lord, could this guy not look more of a cop the way he's looking at her? First off, the way that they present police most of the time in British shows to me is politeness. This guy wasn't. This guy was standing there like a goon, like a thug, trying to talk like a cop. And so he didn't fool me for a second, and just that hard look that he had, and so basically the jig is up, and she sees Lyra, and they try to go through this. They try to play this like Lyra's just lying to his face. It happens twice in this episode to her. Not knowing, understanding how much other people know that she thinks people don't understand. And this guy, as funny as it is for her to just be so confident and lie straight to the guy's face and just be like cool under pressure, immediately once she lets slip that she knows, oh yeah, I'm with Will. Oh fuck, I shouldn't have said that, she runs. She gets away. It's a little sloppy how she gets away because, I mean, if this guy is so serious, if these guys are so serious, and maybe they're trying not to be noticed, and so they're not just killing people, and like he could very easily kill Mary here, and just grab Lyra. She escapes, but as she's running away and has Pan leading her away, there's Boreal waiting. Like, it's like the when wolves or predators, and some predators will chase the prey just so that the main attack can come later in front of them. And here it is, Boreal just in his car, like, hey, funny meeting you here. But since she's scared and this guy's right behind her, and she still doesn't understand how the scope of all of this, she just gets in the car. And immediately, it does not take long for her to realize she's scared. She wants out of this car. But when she does, she leaves the elithiometer, her bag, and in that bag was the elithiometer. And when he gives it back to her, it's not there. And it was kind of interesting, like, why would he let her go when he has her? But he has reasons, right? He's got the elithiometer. He knows that she knows how to read it. He also knows that she knows where Will is, so he could, he's planning already ahead of her that she will come back. She will probably bring Will, or they could just follow her to where she's going and find Will that way. There's no reason to get, violent, and if they now, they might never find Will. So it's pretty interesting how they go about this. Boreal's he's a real cold person, man. But so she's freaking out, and meanwhile, Will finally, he runs into, the girl from last episode talking about the man in the tower that we see. And my money right now, if I had to guess, it's the first person I thought was that it was Azrael, but it could be Will's father. But from the trailer for next week, you see them go out a window. I don't know if he'd do that to his father or not, unless we'll see what the whole series of events is. But I would say it might be Azrael, or it might be this grooming guy. I don't know. I'm already speculating. It could be anybody. There is a guy in a picture for next week that has gray hair. Looks like Terrence Stamp could be him. I don't know. But he finally finds her note, finds her on the park bench, tells him what happened. But they have Boreal's card. It doesn't say Boreal on it, so they got to track it down. Meanwhile, we do get a brief. Sorry, I changed the whole spectrum of my videos. It's like exposure by freaking out there. We do have a brief return of YORIK. I was so excited because Seraphina's Damon Eagle comes there basically to get information and to give information about Lyra. But we also see that Azrael's device that shot it into the sky and opened up the window is now creating its own kind of devastating climate change. That's the snow is melting, the seals are leaving, the bears are being starved out because of this. And I kind of want more of we leave this side of the story. I really want to see what's happening with YORIK, but that's not important to the story that we're on right now, even though I'm very interested. But I like YORIK talking about that she's just this pawn in your guys' game. He's so cool, and putting it all on them. And it's just YORIK basically though tells them, because the witches want to know where she is, that he went up the mountain now that he can because the snow's all melting. That he knows she went through the window to go after Azrael. Now, then they hide out in the theater. Will and Lyra hide out in the theater where she's introduced to popcorn. I love this because I love first that she just immediately starts grabbing it, very Baby Yoda, or I'm sorry, Grogu. And she starts eating it, and she's just like, it reminded me of Homer Simpson when he was eating something like when he first drank. I think it was oh god, he was drinking. It was a Mountain Dew that he hated, and he's like, oh, this is terrible, glug glug glug, or maybe it was crab juice, but she's eating it. She's like, this is terrible. It tastes like wood shavings, but she can't stop eating it. And I love that because she supposedly hates it, but she's just driven. Maybe she's just really hungry, but I think she's just not used to it, and she's just becoming how we are. When we hit popcorn, you hit that butter and you hit that salt, you just kind of can't stop yourself. So I love that moment of her discovering popcorn, but also she's talking about the guilt over Roger, telling him this whole thing that my father killed my best friend right in front of me. I've got to fix this. Now, they eventually track down Boreal. And they're, it's bad right off the front, right? He's got video cameras. He's just staring at them both of them are looking at each other, and they're still kind of playing this game of him calling her Lizzie, and just they know why they're there. I don't know why the subterfuge takes this long to drop. But once they're inside and they're locked in and he's in his little museum of things, the subterfuge does come down, and there's no more. He doesn't put up with it. She tries calling Will, Mark. It's all just a bunch of garbage. And we left something in your car, but he's like, it's mine. And he's still not telling her the full scope. He's still holding back. Because now he's just like, oh, well, you can have this back, but I need you to do something for me. Even though she does know that he was from the party. He killed that girl. She doesn't know that part. He says that she's not as astute as her mom until she figures it out. Threatening to call the police. And I'm thinking, yeah, call the police. But he's using that. He's using that fear that children have, that a lot of people have, over calling the cops on you. But they don't know that, yeah, he doesn't want to be caught either. He can't be caught either. He would be, how would he, So he uses those threats that you can threaten children with. But he says that he wants this knife from the man in the tower. He knows that they came through the window. He wants them to go get it, and then he will give Will all of his, whatever he wants. Which, again, he can say whatever he wants and not mean it. he wants them to do this dirty work for him. And that's where Lyra and Will's story ends for this week. Now, we also have briefly Mary trying to communicate with the dust and the computer and all that. She's trying to do what Lyra did. She puts the sensors up to the box. It starts to show her something. She gets frustrated and she leaves. And when she leaves, she'd been asking, is Lyra safe? And when she leaves, the elithiometer shows a snake, meaning Boreal. But she also does get answers from the guy that's part of the school saying that the girl got away, so she's happy. But when she gets home, she starts messing with the sticks that are in the box. And there's that line that she gets from the book that to a mind that is still, a whole universe surrenders. And there is this kind of breakthrough where she's, she opens up her mind, she puts down the sticks start to show up in the computer, and all of a sudden there's this kind of big moment there where almost like, could she have kind of broken the code so that she could possibly read the dust now? I don't know. I think that's kind of where we're headed, that she'll be able to help in that way. But the other big part of this episode, and I was saving this because this was my favorite parts of the episode, was Lin-Manuel Miranda's Lee Scorsby, who we don't see right away. There's a mysterious figure who sounds, a lot like Will's father, saying, return to me. Return to me. And he's got a ring on, and he's got the cloak and everything, and it's all very mysterious. And suddenly the wind turns and seems to be pushing the balloon a certain direction. And they don't think about it. His daemon does, kind of like, hey, this is, all of a sudden we just started moving this way, and there was no wind. But I mean, it is, weather. Weather does just tend to turn sometimes. So they're still searching for Grumman, unaware, basically, that someone is kind of driving them at this point, like with that chant that almost seemed like some sort of subconscious pull, where he ends up, going to the town, asking around. You can tell that he's being very non-stealthy here. He's being very open about who he's asking for, who he's looking for. He doesn't bring up Lyra or anything, but it's kind of it's kind of a character flaw maybe, that he's just so, he's a friendly guy. He tries to warm people up before he asks them questions. He's definitely drinking, buying this guy, feeding him drinks. But it doesn't go unnoticed. So even when he goes to the observatory to ask this guy, Dr. Haley, about Grumman, he doesn't think that he's being followed. But he also doesn't realize that this guy Haley that's at this observatory, this is where he doesn't know that this guy's magisterium. And it goes really quickly bad. I like his, I don't know if that was a lemur or a ringtail. I think it was a lemur, something like that. Getting all nasty, getting all on the defensive. And he gets shot at. He shoots back. He accidentally shoots the guy. I love that when the daemon fades and he dies. It was really powerful to me. Every time I see that, I'm not used to those deaths and what it means, like the soul and everything gone, disappearing. But his frustration over the magisterium being in everything, everywhere you go, they've infected everything. And immediately, though, he is captured by the people that he was, talking openly too loudly about, and they capture him. And they beat him bad. Which is where we have, all of a sudden, Mrs. Coulter showing up. She's on the trail. She's trying to find Lyra. She's, looking for her own answers, leading her here. And she finds Lee. And, this was a great character interaction for the best of the series. Is him and her meeting for the first time, and him, like, being glib and flippant. What do you want? Who are you? Hey, you want me to praise the magisterium? You need to take a pledge? I'll do whatever you want. Just let me out of here. But, like, doing it in that kind of phony, sarcastic voice that is kind of pushing her. Like he's unafraid. He does not really care what they do to him. He says a few times over that my life is worth only 1/10 of Lyra's, and I won't do anything because she wants information, and her face goes through so many emotions. Ruth Wilson does such a good job in the scene as well as him, where everything he says is like either enraging her or cutting her. He's getting to her. He is affecting her. She is not affecting him. The only thing that affects him is his care for Lyra and what he's willing to do for her. He's like, you love her, right? You say you love her, but that does not mean you won't hurt her. It does not mean that you will not cause her pain. And, that's why I can't tell you where she is, because I actually do love her. I have that kind of love, the love that you think you have, but you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't be like this. You would not be, we wouldn't be having this kind of conversation. Because he's like, I'm good with pain. Going into the story about his dad, which hit me. Coming from that kind of emotional and physical abuse myself. And having people, come at you over their flared up tempers, and you, what he says is, that she must have had parents just like this too. These kind of people that tear you down and make you believe that you're nothing. Because they feel like they're nothing, and they've got to make you feel like you're nothing too. And I completely 1,000% relate to that, unfortunately. Those kind of people that make you feel grateful when they forgive you for forgiveness you do not need. And how that has made Lee strong in some ways by suffering this kind of abuse. And that he sees it in her, and it really affected me. And I think that if anybody has gone through this or has this in their life, this was probably a really powerful moment for people watching this, because it really hit me. It really hit me, and it made me have to kind of see things that I hadn't thought about like in a while, about how certain relationships I have been that way my whole life. And he's like to her, like, you can do whatever you want to me, you can threaten me, but it's not going to break me, because it wouldn't break you either. Because I'm only 1/10 of her. And she leaves. But comes back after she sees Boreal's message to her that I know where she is. And she comes back, and we have that monkey knockout where like the sleeping guard and the sleeping snake, and he knocks out the snake, which knocks out the guard, which gives her to give Lee the keys. And we see the effect that he had on her. She's letting him go. She's telling him, if there are people looking for my daughter. I want to find her. Not all of them are good, which I also find is interesting that she's throwing herself in there as to the good people, assumedly, that are looking for her. And she's like, not everybody is good that's looking for her, but if you find her, make sure she's safe. And she leaves him. And he, sneaks out. They have to leave the balloon behind and go out by boat to go find upriver where Grumman supposedly is. And those character moments that, especially that one like with Lee, just deeply affected me. Making this I really enjoyed this episode by the end of it, because I could see some people thinking some of this was kind of boring, but the character stuff really drives it. We are moving slowly, and like I said, I don't know where it's going, but I love the journey. And so that's episode 3 of season 2. Next week is the halfway point. Then after that, we've only got 3 episodes left, because we're only having a 7-episode season. Thanks, COVID. So anyway, I can't wait to see what happens next week. I did see the trailer. It does look pretty intense. So if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. If you feel like donating to the channel to help us out here to get better equipment, because right now we're trying to get a new laptop, you can go to paypal.me/smirkingunreviews, where any help goes directly into the account that is for the laptop. So thank you so much again, everybody, for watching these videos of mine, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much.